Hey guys, this is God of Politics. I'm going to go to a brand new video, but before we get started with this video, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also follow me on Twitter and join the Discord. Those are both linked down in the description, especially my Discord server. We've got a mock government there. We've got a lot of political discussion going on. So if you like this channel, you like the videos I post, you'll certainly like my Discord server and you should join that. But getting into the video, today I'm talking about the state of Nevada and why I think Republicans have a very good opportunity here to not only win a Senate seat, a gubernatorial seat, 3 House seats, as well as 2 state legislative chambers, as well as some other state level races, which I won't be talking about in this video, but they do exist. Now, Nevada is a very interesting state. If we look at the 2020 election here, we can see that Joe Biden won by 2.4 percentage points here. And that victory was mostly propelled by his margin in Clark County, which was around 91,000 votes. He got a 12,000 vote margin in Washoe County as well, but most of his vote margin came from Clark County. You can see here he won by about 34,000 votes here, and you can see his margin in Clark County was 90,000 votes. But Clark County did shift red from the race in 2016. If we look at this race here, we can see that Clark County was more Democratic back in 2016, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that Hispanic voters shifted towards the Republican Party. You can see here it was only 0.7% more Republican, and a lot of that has to do with conflicting trends. We've got these Hispanic trends up in North Las Vegas, whereas we've got some of these more suburban trends out in these areas around Las Vegas, where we've got more whiter voters, more voters with a college education, and those were the kinds of voters that shifted towards Joe Biden, whereas, as I just said, you had Hispanic voters, which on the whole shifted more towards Donald Trump. So that led to an overall shift of 0.4% to Donald Trump in Clark County, and Clark County is going to be crucial to the Democratic vote in 2020. But part of the reason I think Republicans have a very good shot is, first of all, with this guy, Joe Lombardo. Joe Lombardo is the sheriff of Clark County, and while it's a nonpartisan race, he did win by a ridiculously large margin, and he's running as a Republican now. He's not the most, partisan right-wing Republican ever. Of course, he'll be, a solid vote for the Republicans in the Senate, but at the end of the day, he's not a bad candidate. He's a very strong candidate. He had a pretty decent primary showing. He obviously did the best in Clark County, which is where it's going to matter the most in the general election. It has the highest population of any of the counties in Nevada by far. So you can see here, looking at this race, he won the primary pretty easily. Sisolak, who is the governor, won the primary pretty easily as well, but he was an incumbent, of course. Now, looking at this general election, most places rated as a toss-up, a few rated as lean or tilt to the Democrats to Sisolak, but overall, I do think Lombardo has a pretty good shot, and part of that is in the polls. And I don't like using polls, but in Nevada, polls actually tend to underestimate Democrats more often than not. But I do think polls are going to generally underestimate Republicans this cycle. So I think that, factoring both of those in, I think we can say that the polls might be reasonably accurate in the state of Nevada. Of course, we have to, discount some of these internal polls, these push polls. But if we take things as an aggregate, it's actually not too bad. But part of the problem with this is we do have a high amount of undecided voters, but that doesn't really bode well for the incumbent. If you're Steve Sisolak and you're polling at 43%, that is not very good, especially if your approval rating is above 50%. That means some people may like you, but they're not going to vote for you. And of course, those undecideds may break for him, but as of right now, I wouldn't be so sure of it. Republicans are in a pretty strong position right now in terms of just the national environment, and things don't have to shift very much for Lombardo to win. Of course, in 2018, Steve Sisolak ran against Adam Laxalt, who we'll talk about in a bit, and Sisolak won by exactly 4 percentage points here, about 40,000 votes. So only a 4% shift from a blue wave year. And of course, there's other factors. He's an incumbent, but I would say that Lombardo is a better candidate than Laxalt is. So you've got to think that Lombardo is in a very good position here. And you think a similar thing would be the case for the Senate race. We've got Adam Laxalt going against Democratic incumbent Catherine Cortez Masto. Now, in the last election, Catherine Cortez Masto won by 2.4 percentage points, which I believe is a very similar margin to what Joe Biden won, who also won by 2.4 percentage points, though Biden did get above 50% of the vote, which Catherine Cortez Masto did not. Now, if we look at this, Catherine Cortez Masto was the candidate to succeed Harry Reid. Now, Harry Reid, if we look at this race, we can see Harry Reid here won by 5.7 percentage points. Now, people may say, oh, 5.7 percentage points in 2010 of all years. That must be a very strong performance, especially since the gubernatorial race also went to the Republicans. Well, if we look at the 2020 race, we can see here Joe Biden won by 2.4 percentage points. Back in 2008, Obama won the state by, a good 12, 13 points in the state of Nevada. So going from a 12, 13 point victory to the 5.7% victory that Harry Reid had is actually a pretty large reduction. It's a reduction of about half, or more than half, really. So that was a 6% shift, which was less than the national environment as a whole, but it still was a shift. You don't even need that much of a shift for this race to tip to the Republicans. So when you look at this 2016 race where Catherine Cortez Masto, I believe, did worse than Hillary Clinton did. Hillary Clinton won by, or actually, so it's about a very similar margin, 2.4 percentage points for both of them. So they ran about even. But another thing is that Catherine Cortez Masto did not win Washoe County, whereas Hillary Clinton did win Washoe County. So Catherine Cortez Masto doesn't necessarily need to win it, but you'd have to think that she can take anything, she'll want to take anything she can get. So for this 2022 race, you do have Adam Laxalt, who I do think, comparing him and Lombardo, he is weaker than Lombardo, but I do think that he's still got a very good shot at this race. Of course, Laxalt did have a very strong primary performance. He was polling at 51%. He ended up with 56% of the vote, which is pretty good for a primary that was contested. Catherine Cortez Masto currently is leading in the polls, but she's only leading by 0.8 percentage points. And like I said, polls historically have underestimated Democrats in Nevada, but there have been cases where they've underestimated Republicans as well, so we don't really know what's going to happen, especially when we get a lot of these internal polls. McLaughlin, you can't really trust. Shane's research tends to overestimate Democrats. Emerson College, it's had those ups and downs as well. Trafalgar Group, not the worst pollster, did have Trump winning the state of Nevada by 1 percentage points, now has Laxalt winning by 3 percentage points, but that was quite a long time ago as well. I would like to see some more polling on that. So as of right now, you look at a lot of these factors in the race. You've got the fundamentals, look good for Republicans. It's going to be a strong national environment for them. They don't need to shift things that much. Number two, candidates. They've got two very strong candidates. They've got a guy from Clark County, and then they've got the Attorney General who won in 2014 and then lost by 4 percentage points to the gubernatorial race, but they are still two very strong candidates. And number three, again, it's number three because it's not the best, is the polls. The polls, while they do show a slight Democratic victory, show that not only are the Democrats not getting near 50% in polls, which as an incumbent is really not good news, especially when you're down below 43%, but another thing is that Republicans, have a lot of room to improve. They haven't fully consolidated the base yet. They have room to improve on that. So I do think Republicans are also more energized with a lot of these trends going on in terms of voter registration. Nevada has had a lot of unaffiliated voters gaining, whereas both Republicans and Democrats have lost, but Democrats have lost more voters registered with their party than the Republicans have. So there's a lot of factors at play here, but all things considered, you'd have to think Republicans are in a pretty strong position. We've also got 3 House races, which, as a result of the Democrats gerrymandering the congressional districts, you have 3 Democratic districts that could all be competitive. Dinah Titus, has been a candidate that has been in a safe seat for a while. She is no longer in a safe seat, and Nevada has had history of having 3 Republicans in these 4 congressional seats. I believe the last time they had 3 Republicans elected was 2014, which was, of course, another Republican wave year. Many people say 2022 may match or exceed the margin in 2014. So it is certainly not out of the realm of possibility that Republicans could win 3 or even 4 of these seats. Now, I have them winning 2 of the seats. I have them flipping Susie Lacey, which is the least safe of the 3 Democratic districts, but Dinah Titus certainly could go down. Stephen Horsford certainly could go down as well. You just need strong Republican candidates, strong fundraising, strong campaigns. There's so many things that go into winning a race, and I think that if Republicans can play their cards right, they will be able to pull it off. Now, Republicans could win the popular vote for the House races while losing 2 or more seats. I mean, that's the nature of gerrymandering, and that is what the Democrats in Nevada have done. So I wouldn't look too much at the U.S. House races in terms of the amount of seats won as a decider of how well they've done overall, but they are certainly things that we should watch. Now, looking at the state legislative races, C-Analysis, which I should note did overestimate Democrats in 2020 in the state of Nevada and pretty much across the country. They do seem a little bit better in terms of their ratings now. They do have Nevada's lower chamber at tilt Democratic, whereas they have the upper chamber at likely Democratic. There are certainly a lot of opportunities for the Republicans to win. I mean, it's going to be difficult. They can win these toss-up districts, which probably do tilt to them a little bit, and they can win this tilt district, they can win, any amount of these lean districts, they will have a majority. That is certainly a possibility, and this is with a Democratic gerrymander. If you look back at the 2020 state legislative elections, Republicans actually did quite well. They actually won the popular vote by 5 percentage points, 4 or 5 percentage points, so that is a very strong performance for them. Now, I'm not saying that this is as likely to flip as it is for the gubernatorial or senatorial races, but it is certainly something that we have to watch out for as well, because if we look at the upper chamber, which is less likely to flip, there is still a window of opportunity for the Republicans. They can win these 2 toss-up races, and they can win a lean Democratic race. That is not out of the realm of possibility. Races that have been rated lean Democrat have flipped before, just like races that have lean Republican have flipped before. There are things going both ways that could easily flip to the Republicans. So we've got a lot of things going here, and I want to talk about Nevada. I wanted to talk about it specifically because we've got trends going on. We've got good candidates. We've got a lot of races here. There's just so much going on. There are so many moving factors, and that just makes it such an interesting state to cover, such an interesting state to talk about. And so overall, my predictions are currently, I think the Nevada gubernatorial race is tilt Republican. The senatorial race is tilt Republican. I think 2 of the 4 House seats are leaning to the Republicans at the moment, with 2 Democratic races being tilt Democrat, 1 of them being tilt Republican. I think that the state legislative races, while they do slightly lean to the Democrats a little bit, they're certainly not out of the realm of possibility. And of course, we have other state races, which could certainly be interesting as well. So Nevada is a very interesting state. Keep an eye on it. I wanted to keep an eye on it by making a video, and I hope you all enjoyed it. So thank you all for watching this video. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also follow me on Twitter and join the Discord. Those are both linked down in the description. But again, guys, thank you all for watching this video, and I will see you guys later.